It's Monday the 12th of July 2021. This evening's post-Euro pod, we are talking to safe-standing expert Jon Darch about rail seating, its finer points, and rollout in stadia across the country. We're also going to be running the rule of the start of Blackpool's pre-season, and we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about last night at Wembley, as England fail at the final hurdle against the Italians. And I'm John Aspinall, this is the Seasiders podcast, full facts show. Southport, safe standing, and Southgate. Welcome, everybody. Welcome back to the Seasiders podcast on a Monday night at 8 p.m. We're coming to you. Oh, we just lost John. I'll just add him on again. Yeah, we're coming to you after the Euros, Tim. Absolute sickener yesterday, wasn't it? But as long-suffering England supporters, we're kind of used to it, but still grated, didn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you start to think we're permanently jinxed, don't you, with penalty shootouts? But I don't know. It's been a weird day today. I think where we'd have perhaps expected there to be a euphoria around the country as a result of us hopefully winning, and when his keeper saves two, you really should do. And I think I can probably get my off-quoted phrase. There's been a general malaise today, hasn't there, John? I think.
Perfect.
I think if there was ever a day, if there was a day that was made for that expression, today was the one.
Certainly was, Matt. Mitch is joining us. Welcome. We can call you Matt, actually.
I can be myself.
One Matt, so you could be Matt today. You can be a real name. How have you been today after yesterday?
Yeah, well, I think the weather's just been probably the perfect metaphor, hasn't it? It's been grey, dismal, depressing, and it just, I don't know, it felt like it was going to be different this time, didn't it? There was a lot of, this time it's different, and it was just exactly what it always is in the end.
Yeah, welcome to the Seasiders podcast, Mr. Jon Darch. John is I've penned in my notes, John, a safe-standing expert. Is that a title you're happy with?
Oh, campaigner, let's say. It's for others to say whether I'm an expert or not. I'll say I'm a campaigner.
Right, okay. Campaigner. So how did you watch? Did you watch the game yesterday? I presume you did.
I did, yeah. I'll put an optimistic twist on it. I mean, Greg Dyke said several years ago when he became chairman of the FA, it was a 10-year plan. He wanted to win the World Cup in Qatar in 22. Winning last night would have been ahead of schedule. So, getting to the final, but not quite winning, and then winning in 18 months' time in Qatar, that's the plan. So let's look forward to 18 months' time. It would have been too soon, perhaps, last night.
Yeah. So let's just have a quick chat about... Yeah, let's have a quick chat about last night. John, there may be a bit of a delay coming through with your audio, so could you possibly just switch back to your phone setup? There's I think there's a 10-second delay, so maybe just go back to your phone rather than the computers. So I've got two connections. Anyway, Tim, back to last night. Obviously, England defeated 3-2 on penalties against Italy, 1-1 after normal time. And the first kind of topic to talk about was the crowd trouble beforehand. Storming a teacup, perhaps, or was it something a bit more sinister?
I'm not sure that it is a storm in a teacup. At the end of the day, I think part of the reason why Boris has stuck his neck out in relation to the crowds that they were allowing in at Wembley and let all these UEFA officials in on supposedly on straight from the airport to the hotel and back again. Is because they're hoping to launch a 2030 bid, and I don't think it's very helpful when you're looking to schmooze the dignitaries who've all been given a green card to come in here. There's basically a riot going on outside, and it's little more. I saw the footage; it was incredible. Really, it's the type of thing that we used to do in Burnley in the 1980s, and where people just stormed the entrances. And when you think about the potential ramifications, I mean, there's also there's people saying, I don't know where it got into thousands, but most certainly high hundreds of fans gaining entry by that method. And I think part of it is because they know it's not full and they know that there's seats in there. But there's all sorts of effectively they lost control. They couldn't deal with them. There wasn't enough police at the stadium to deal with them, and the stewards are on little more than London equivalent of national minimum wage. And would you want to start taking on these guys? And the best will in the world, you wouldn't, would you?
Not for a tenner an hour or whatever.
It's a police job at the end of the day. That when that happens like that, that is a police job. And if you've only got 300 officers on duty, which I think is an incredibly low number because it's not just this. It's not just the £60,000. Sorry, the £60,000. The 60,000 or so that are in there, but there's a hell of a lot of people in the vicinity as well. In the fan parks, in the Green Man, and whatever. And it's not a lot of officers that for me. So I think a bit of a Met balls up from my perspective, and because even though UEFA are given control of the stadium, the security is left with the Mayor of London, with the Met, and I don't. John might have a better idea than me, but it's like there's some form of safety board, I think, for the stadium as well. But it's not a good look.
John, what was your thoughts on the crowd trouble yesterday? Coming from a kind of a safe standing perspective, do you think that would have had any beneficial effect at all on the outcome yesterday? Has he frozen? I think he has. Mitch, let's come to you then. What was your thoughts on the events of yesterday?
Something Tim said sort of struck in the sense that the stewarding, as it has, I suppose it is often is at football grounds, is very much sort of a minimum wage, whoever you can get kind of job. And then you look at they're not charging minimum wage ticket prices, are they?
Certainly not.
The cost of that event to put on, or the income from that event was huge. And I read some stuff on AVFTT from someone who was actually there, which suggested that it was just completely out of control. He said, it really was not an enjoyable day. I think his quote was, "The game was the best bit of the day," which tells you kind of how wild the day was. And it was someone who's sort of of a certain vintage and been around a lot of football matches. So. I think that tells you one thing, and I think I don't know. This might be just me being a bit. I can't think of what the word is. Being a bit contrary, but there's also part of me which is, the sort of celebrity presence or the corporate presence at Wembley. We talked about this, I think, when in our game when we only had 10,000 in there were 2,000 of the tickets or whatever it was were there, and there's a small part of me kind of understands a bit why there is a stampede to get in. It's empty, and then you're seeing James Corden and Tom Cruise on the telly all the time, and it doesn't really feel like exactly the people's game on that level either, does it? I know that's not really the point, but I can't help think that.
Well, funnily enough, I was just a few days beforehand. I was just doing a bit of investigation, just like how people get into Wembley for free. Because I remember reading about Man United fans doing it, so I was doing a bit of googling, and it was all over these forums of like how to do it. I was looking at a Man United one. They were saying there's a technique. I can't remember the name of it, where you back up really close behind someone who's just about to go in. They scan the tickets, and then you just force your way in, and then you're in. And there was also United fans against Barcelona. They stormed one of the I think it was the exits, and that happened again yesterday. And it looked pretty
disabled gate. I think
disabled gate.
Yeah,
it looked pretty brutal. Did you see that video of them coming in? But some England fans already in the stadium started giving them a hell of a kicking.
Yeah,
they were shouting, "Pay your money, pay your money." But it's not up to them to police that, is it? It's it was a bit out of order, that I thought.
Yeah. There was quite a good debate online. It was a United. I was just reading a debate online before. It was one of the United fanzines. Was sort of it was quite an incendiary debate.
What was the gist?
Yeah, well, the gist was kind of, some blokes going, good on them, these freeloading scum, and then other people kind of going, what are you doing? What are you doing, beating up fellow fans who just want to see a game and sort of a back and forth? It was, it's one of them where I thought, I don't think I'm going to comment here.
No. So Tim, let's move on to the game last night then. What was your overriding feeling at the end of the game, and your thoughts on the game in general?
It's most certainly a missed opportunity, wasn't it? I think probably we were just talking about it down at the football before. I think we scored too early, and
Dan's BFA's just said they were offering to pay to get out by extra time. There was a general malaise in the second half, wasn't there?
Yeah, well, I think we basically scored too early, and then I think the tactic seemed to be to try and avoid conceding, which I think sort of played into Italy's hands very much. And I think it gave them, in a weird way, us scoring so early gave them the initiative, where otherwise I think we would have been going at them. And I think that was the disappointing thing, because we seemed to lose that swagger that we'd shown in the last couple of games, and the great incisive play that we saw. I think probably the decision maybe to play Trippier was the wrong one. I think we should have stuck with what had been doing, what had been working for us, really, rather than trying to be too clever and match up to the Italians. I think the Italians would have been more worried about the way we were going to play rather than the way that rather than us worrying about them. We were the form team going into the final, and I just find it a little bit disappointing, really. I just think we gave the initiative away, and I think you're at home. You've got the support behind you. You've got the country behind you, and I think if you come off that pitch having felt that you've given it all, then all well and good. But I just think probably tactically, I think Mancini came out with the higher scores, most certainly from a tactical perspective, than Southgate did last night.
Matt, over to you. It was, for me, it was on 35 minutes, the game was ebbing away from England, and it just continued in the same pace in the second half, getting further and further away from England. And it was crying out for a change. It was crying out for change of personnel. We were getting overrun in midfield, crying out for a change of formation. And it reminded me exactly of the Croatia game in the semi-finals, where the whole of the watching public could see what needed to change, or something had to change, and he just didn't make a change till 70 minutes. It was just too late, and I can't get it in my head why he's not made the change to stem the flow, because it was inevitable when they scored to equalise.
Yeah. And then when he did make these, I can't remember the order of it, but certainly Henderson. Was it Henderson first, then Saka, or whichever way around it was? But I could see what he was trying to do in terms of getting the experience on, but I just thought that it reminded me early this season when Critch kept bringing MJ Williams on, and we'd why's he done that? That's not what we need. It was that kind of sub where you just think, no, you want to see Grealish, you want to see Sancho. And you see Henderson, who is a good footballer, but he's Henderson, isn't he?
He's not going to change the game for you, is he?
No, he's not. And and actually, of those midfielders he took off, Rice was having probably quite out of character for him. He was actually galloping forward quite often, wasn't he? He seemed to remember how to dribble. And of all the midfielders on the pitch, Rice actually looked the most proactive. And he took him off. And yeah, the best quote I've read today on it was, I read a quote in the paper which said something like, you can talk about the tactics all day, but for England, it's a psychological thing that becomes a tactical thing. And I thought there was a certain truth in that, in the way that we just seemed to surrender the game from about 35 minutes, didn't we? We just seemed to lose. And there was so much in that sort of end of the first half, start of the second half, where we'd be winning the ball back with a press, and then we weren't making the runs because they were all trying to stay in their banks of four. You could see that so much in their mind was, don't fuck it up, rather than get another one. And that stopped them actually doing the things they've been doing. So, yeah.
Tim, in the second half, I was like depressed watching the game. I was ridiculous as it sounds. I was like slumped back in my chair, just waiting for the goal to come. Were you the same?
Yeah, it was
I was
everything.
Just waiting for them to equalise.
It was everything that we weren't against Ukraine and Denmark, and also to a certain degree Germany, I think, as well, where we were always on the front foot in those games, and we were actually good to watch. It was exciting to watch. It had you out of your seat. It had you, even if we didn't, hit the post or just off target, whatever. You thought, wow, we actually look like we've got a team this time, and we just played within ourselves. Listen, that's the first final in 55 years. The one thing you don't do is play within yourself, and I just think perhaps by worrying about the result too much tactically and worrying about Italy too much, we've done ourselves a bit of a disservice, I think, and I think we'll look back on that in a month or 2 months' time.
It's another opportunity missed.
Massive. We are at home. We're at home. And listen. You can argue that can actually have a negative impact being at home with the pressure. But I don't think there was the pressure on them in the way that there might have been previous. I think they had the crowd with them. They had you're playing on your home pitch. It's the pitch you're used to playing on. We haven't had to do a lot of travelling. We've got a lot of teams, in the semis. Italy looked, and I was quite glad we got Italy. I was against Spain, who I thought were slightly more fluid.
Well, we had them on the ropes in the first half, didn't we? And that's what's so annoying.
I thought
we had them on the ropes.
What we failed to do was play like Denmark played against us at times, because for quite a long time against Denmark, even though we were on top, they'd keep bursting out, and they had spells where they looked really dangerous. And I thought Italy were very good. I thought that all the way through the competition. I thought they were a very, very, very good team. And I thought once they got going, they were very difficult to play against. But we just didn't. It was like we didn't want to gamble on, we didn't want to gamble on making that chance, making that moment. Which I thought that even though Denmark are actually a much inferior team to us, player for player, and probably there's less of a gap between us and Italy. They caused us more trouble than we caused Italy, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was really frustrating. I totally get what you mean by the depression.
I would rather have gone down fighting and going for it in the second half. Put them under pressure, go on the front foot, and I'd rather have lost 3-1, sticking on Grealish, sticking on Foden, sticking on Sancho, and attacking them. Oh, all right, if we'd failed, I'd go, fair play, mate, you've had a go. But just to sit back and wait, it was... a lot of people say, Qatar next, we'll take on this form to the World Cup. There's no guarantees whatsoever you're going to make it through to the semis or the final.
No.
And to be 1-0 up at half-time and just sit back like they did, it's... extremely disappointing. I didn't listen to 606 last night. I was up listening late, and Terry Butcher was good, but he was arguing with Chris Sutton quite a bit. So the penalty shootout, Tim, talk us through that, and can you wrap your head around this, bringing on these two substitutes?
I've always actually going back quite a long time now, probably back to the 1990 World Cup when Shilton was abysmal. As a penalty saver, and I think we had Chris Woods, didn't we, on the bench, who is a fantastic penalty saver. I always felt that there was sometimes if you have a sub keeper who's better than your outfield keeper saving penalties, that it's worthwhile in that last couple of minutes bringing them on, and then you've got them for the shootout. I don't think I've ever seen. And somebody might correct me, I don't think I've ever seen a team bring on players in the last minutes of injury time, of stoppage time, specifically to take a penalty in that context. And I find it strange because I think I'm guessing this, but probably when you do your penalty practicing, and it's generally at the end of the session, and when everybody's had seen plenty of the ball and had plenty of touches, and you're bringing players on who've been sat, well, they might have run up and down the line a bit, but have been sat down pretty much for thick end of 3 hours.
You're not in the pace of the game, are you?
2.5 hours, definitely 2.5 hours. So they haven't kicked a ball probably for 2.5 hours. And you're bringing them on, and the first time they're going to kick a ball probably is to take that penalty. And so I was quite surprised. And I'm also quite surprised that a couple more of the senior players didn't come forward. I thought it was, listen, he might not have been bothered, but I think it was quite unfair to have Sacco taking that fifth one. And I don't think you should put that in the hands of somebody that young ordinarily.
It was Southgate who made the picks, Tim, apparently. It was,
well, he said, to be fair, he's come out, I've said that afterwards, hasn't he? And he said, I've asked them, they've, and he's been doing it on form in the shootouts. But of course, when you get in that pressure, I saw Alan Shearer this morning, and he was saying, you can never put yourself in that situation until you're in it. And he said, if you're not used to it, you're walking. It's the longest walk ever from the centre circle. And he said, you're even thinking like, do I kick the ball up? Do I hold the ball? Do I bounce the ball? Yeah. And he said, you're so overthinking what's going to happen even before you get to the point where you're actually going to take the penalty. And that's when focus can be lost. And, the three that, Rashford was a strange run up and a straight, but he actually made the keeper go the other way and basically left himself with an open goal to roll the ball into, hadn't he? And managed to contrive to hit the post. But I thought the other two that we missed were about quite similar in a way. They were hit reasonably hard, reasonably low, but it's like a gift for the keeper, isn't it? Because if the keeper's ever going to save a penalty, it's either because somebody hits one down the middle and you stand still, or it's not quite in the corner, not quite hard enough. And it's potentially savable with them dropping down. The ones that aren't savable generally are the ones that go in the top left or the top right.
Well, Matt, when Harry Maguire stepped up, I was like thinking, oh God, a centre half. But that's we were all going, oh, he's going to miss. But that's the way
I shouted out in my front room, why is Maguire taking one? Why is Maguire taking one? And then he absolutely belted it, and my lad just turned around and went, you don't know anything about football, do you?
So that's why. But that's what you do. Head down, just smash it into the top corner. Don't matter how good the goalie is. They're not getting it, are they?
No.
And that's Sancho's penalty. It was appalling. Just right at a nice height to save it.
I feel a bit
a gentle side foot. Put your foot through it.
I feel a bit for Southgate in this, though, because I think it's one of them things where he's obviously he's frustrating, is Southgate, because he doesn't let him off the leash. But on the other hand, we have done pretty well for the last two tournaments, and the question always comes up: well, if not Southgate, who? Because there aren't really any names that you would think. So, I think he's done all right, and I felt sorry for him with this, because I think what he does is he plans, and that's the success of this team has been they're well planned, they're well organised, they're structured, they know what they're doing. They're not that exciting, but they're well planned. And I could see like that moment where he's picking those penalty takers. It's that thing where you're under pressure and you think, should I change my mind? And then you start thinking, well, is that weakness? If I don't follow the plan, that's weakness, that's panicking. So I'll stick with the plan. And I really, really felt for him in his choice, and everything Tim said before, I don't think I've ever seen that before. I've seen players come on with, 6 or 7 minutes to go with penalties in mind, but never, 30 seconds before.
It's kind of like the American football special teams scenario, almost. Yeah. Well, it is. It's a pretty good analogy, but
it failed spectacularly because the two come on to do it, both miss.
Just talking about
had he picked Shaw and had he gone
Shaw should have taken one. Shaw would have drilled one in, wouldn't he?
Well, he probably would have, but had they missed, then Southgate would have been there going, why didn't I stick with the plan? Why didn't I stick with what we practiced? Do you know what I mean? It's kind of like you can't mentally. It's really hard that.
Do you think a little bit? I mean, I was there that night when he missed his in '96, and do you think obviously because of that, I think to a certain degree, it's defined him as a man and a manager, hasn't it? That night, and he's faced it head on and whatever. But I wonder whether he's overanalyzed. So sometimes we used to be criticised for not thinking about penalties and not approach him in the right way. I remember when we went out in '96, I think it was suggested, that we didn't even practice them. And most certainly more than one England manager had said we never practiced penalties. But we almost seem to have gone full circle, haven't we? Where we've gone from thinking about it.
One extreme to the other, Tim, I think.
And now we've micromanaged it to a point.
Well, I think that was what the depressing thing was as well, because in every interview he's gone, we're not weighed down by history. We won't be going back to the past where it is. And then I was just thinking, well, this is just another one, isn't it? This is just the most Englandy way to lose it. And you've just, everything that you've said for the last God knows how longer about, it's now this lot are now scarred in the same way that every other bloody generation has been.
Yeah. Well, to get a 19-year-old taking that penalty, the majority of the country's watching you in front of 90,000 people. And I know this is going to sound ridiculous, but when I took that penalty for Soccer AM, Bloomfield Road in Premier League, I was stood out there for a good 10 minutes. At half time, the ground was full. I was shitting myself. And I just wanted to get off the pitch. It was £500 if I scored one penalty. But by the time the 10 minutes was up, the players were almost coming out. I just wanted to kick the ball and get off the pitch. I kind of
had you as penalty consultant.
Yeah, I should have took it.
Should have been in
brought
there.
Me on the special teams. If you've gone onto YouTube, take it like a fan. Blackpool fan, how to score.
Was it you beat Chris Walker, didn't you? Did you beat Chris Walker? Was it?
Yes. If you're not that I ever mention it, Chris.
No, I don't think I've ever heard you mention it before.
But it was just horrible. I just wanted to get off the pitch. And I can imagine those young lads out there, they just wanted to get out of there. Because imagine 90,000 people or 60,000 people in the stadium watching you in the whole bloody world. It must be, terrible to do that. And to put a 19-year-old up there, I heard on the radio today, he's taken 2 penalties in not even his professional career. One for like a couple of England youth teams and one for an Arsenal youth team. So he's never even taken one in a professional game. So what's that all about?
That's strange, isn't it? But I know when we if you go back to like '96, you looked at the penalty takers we had then. A lot of them are like regular penalty takers for the clubs. Like Shearer and Sheringham was the penalty taker for Pierce, and listen, Chris Waddle used to be fantastic at penalty taking, and he skied one over, didn't he, in '90, and obviously Pierce famously missed his, and he was like, he never missed. So you can never legislate for it, but I look around. I think there's some players on that pitch who should have taken penalties ahead of Sacco. Henderson, who reckons one of the most experienced players going. Where was he?
It was always the same with Paul Ince, Tim.
Taking Henderson off, hadn't he?
Oh, right, they took him off, didn't they? Right at the end, didn't they? Yeah, sorry.
They call Paul Ince the self-proclaimed governor. He never stepped up, did he? When
he went hiding, didn't he?
Yeah. So
he wasn't having it.
Did you see Grealish's tweet today?
Yeah.
I quite like that.
What did he say?
He basically said, I did want to take a penalty because Sky had put out something saying, where were the experienced players like Grealish, like whoever? And Grealish had just quoted it saying, well, I said I wanted to take a penalty. It was a gaffer's choice. I'm not having a go, but I put my hand up and said, I'll take one. So I'm not having you saying...
So there may be others who've done the same then.
In my notes, one thing I heard on the radio today was someone was having a go at Southgate, calling his management style blueprint football, and he said it's lost us the final, and that kind of struck a chord with me. He's got this set plan and just does not deviate from it at all. And football's not like that, though, is it? As has proved the case yesterday. All right, he's got his plan for the game yesterday, but it just clearly didn't work, did it, in the second half, and invited pressure. And the penalties are the same, Tim, like you've just sort of said. He's got this. It's gone the full circle, hasn't it? Yeah. To these extremities.
It's probably thought, to be fair, with some of the younger ones that because they're not burdened down with the history, that they can go out there and not worry about it. But to be fair, when he missed his, he was a young lad who hadn't played many games, and he stepped forward and scored one. I just don't think you can. I just think we've thought about it far too much, and I think that's been our undoing. You can overthink things sometimes and over prepare.
The blueprint football thing as well. It's come full circle from where we were, X number of years ago, where we always used to feel like we hadn't really got a plan. That it was just that when you used to look at European teams and they played patiently and they looked tactically aware and sort of we'd turn up 4-4-2, try and hit the big man, and it was almost embarrassing sometimes how simplistic England were. And now we're playing like this kind of really cautious, careful continental side, and they're all just going for it and sort of throwing caution to the wind. And I think the truth lies somewhere in between, doesn't it? In terms of, has he lost us the final? Well, he's got us to the final, and this blueprint has worked very well. Actually, the sort of national blueprint has worked very well, and we've had a degree of success that is a long way from where we've been in the near past, and going back further than that. But it's frustrating as hell because you just feel like there could be more.
So after the game, I watched it with my sister, and I said to her, will this really affect our lives, though, tomorrow? As gutting as it was, I said, what would you rather, England win the Euros or Blackpool get promoted from League One by the playoffs? And immediately, and we both agreed, Blackpool, it's our bread and butter. And she said, even if England had have won, what would tomorrow wouldn't have been any different. It's not any different that we've won or lost, is it? So thankfully, we won the important game at Wembley, didn't we?
Yep. And we're on the cusp of that new season, aren't we? I mean, it's only, is it about less than 2 weeks away from the Rangers game, which is going to be something to look forward to.
Yeah.
And
yeah, sorry, Tim. I was just going to say to everyone watching and listening, we were going to chat with Jon Darch about safe standing. He was going to give us the insight and the lowdown on that, but he's unfortunately having technical problems, so we're going to skip that section, and we're going to move straight on to the pre-season. Blackpool 11 faced Southgate on Friday night. Was it 7-0 they won? A mixture of youth, Tim, and under 23s. So can we read much into this?
In the short, no.
Yeah.
I think it's a case of just getting the squad going, isn't it? I mean, I think it was fairly apparent when we knew we were playing at a game the following day that we wouldn't be putting anybody out there who'd be getting too close to the first team, really. I must admit, I didn't pay a lot of attention to it, if I'm being brutally honest.
On to Blackpool versus Southport. Southport 0, Blackpool 2. We were all intending to go. I was. My son his bubble has been popped at school, so he had to self-isolate, so couldn't take him. Nick was supposed to be going to this, wasn't he? This was his big game for the season.
Well, on Friday night, actually, I said, I revisited the relevant podcast, and the emphasis which was on that, Nick's going to this, and he'd put all that information in. I think he was quite excited, wasn't he? So I did a little clip and sent it to him just to remind him. Yeah,
he doesn't bother with playoff semi-finals or finals at Wembley, does he? But he's all over Southport away. Yeah, Nick's obviously unfortunately got struck down as well, so he couldn't go. So I was going to take his ticket, then I couldn't go. And there was only one representative from the Seasiders podcast made it there. Last man standing. Matt, the chap down there. Yeah, you made it, didn't you? On what was going to be a nice, glorious summer's day, but it didn't turn out to be.
Yeah, I had me sun cream packed and everything, and no, I didn't turn out like that. Our accredited friend made it as well. He was there. So
Sean was there, was he?
Yeah, it was a nice touch actually when we got. He he'd sort of said something like, "I'm outside now," and just as I got the text, it started playing bagpipe music on the tannoy. So
Really?
in fact, the piping you in, mate. And it comes to bagpipe music, which I enjoyed greatly. But yeah, no, it was a nice day. I mean, the night, in a way, the nicest thing about it was how low key it was and how it didn't really matter, because the two games that we did get to last year were so high stakes, and they were so, after the Swindon game, we talked about, not the Swindon game, the Oxford game, we talked about how kind of weirdly emotional it was. And obviously Wembley was another level in emotion.
Yeah.
And this was just lovely. It was like being at a county cricket match or something. It was just so low key, and there was nothing to get stressed about. So it was a nice day. It was really normal. It was just really nice and normal, and just low-key pre-season game, which is exactly what you want. And my lads never had the glorious open terrace in the rain experience before, which was a new one for him. Sat there.
If it was a computer game, you could have called it Chesterfield Away Simulator.
That's exactly what I said to him. He said, "Dad, has it ever been this bad before again?" I said, "Mate,
you don't know you've been born."
At least it wasn't cold, if it'd been like Chesterfield, was about -2 as well, wasn't it?
Oh God, yeah. It was good. It was a nice throwback, a nice little ground, and
pitch was meant to be good, wasn't it? It was the pitch was like a bowling green, wasn't it?
Well, it was, apart from the far corner. The sort of the corner by the home end was horrendous. I don't know if you saw it on YouTube, but that was that kind of spoiled the first half a bit, because we were going towards the home end, and what would have been our left, on the left wing, it was unplayable. They would have called it off if it had been a league game, because it tipped down. There was standing water, so we were sheltering inside one of the turnstiles that was closed for about 20 minutes because it was just pelting down, and there was standing water all on the sort of
for a turnstile closed for rain.
No. They only had one turnstile open, so there were like the 3 gates with the doors closed. So we got in there about 2:30 or something, because the pub was closed outside the ground as well, so there was nothing to do. So we went in, and I was actually we were actually inside, like where the turnstile would be, like where the turnstile operators were. You could press the pedal and turn.
Oh, right, could you? Right.
Yeah, it was great.
You could have done a Wembley style rushing of the gates.
Yeah, exactly. Could have done. And there was standing water. So there was standing water all on the concrete. It's kind of like wading through it to get to the terrace. And the pitch looked absolutely fine. It looked beautiful. But then when it went into one corner, it was fantastic because it was so wet. It was proper comedy. But there's no way they'd have played it if it was a league game. But they'd obviously just had a word, we'll try and stay away from that corner. But that spoiled it a bit first half. And then second half, Kevin Stewart went off.
So we won a lot, weren't they? Was it Dimitri Mitchell scored in the first half? What was his goal like?
Well, there was an element of comedy to it because it went forward to to Hamilton, and CJ belts after it as he does, and he just legs completely went from under him, and he just went like head first down in the water, like he was doing he'd done a belly flop off the top board, spray going everywhere.
It's a knockout.
Yeah,
for those of a certain vintage.
Yeah, they picked it up. Their fullback sort of tries to run away with it, leaves the ball behind because it's wet. We win it back, pass it back to CJ, who's got up, and he just popped it across to Demi, who sort of turned, and nice finish in the corner. And he played well. Mitchell played well, but it was a bit. I don't know. First half was a bit frustrating because we couldn't use both sides of the pitch. So we were going up the right because you couldn't really use the left. So it kind of
It's very non-league, this, isn't it?
Yeah,
very non-league.
Yeah. And to be fair, Southport played quite well first half. They made a few chances. They probably should have had a goal. Marvin did all right. He looked a bit shaky at the end of last year. He looked a lot calm. I mean, I know it's not exactly the same opposition, but he looked a lot calmer. He looked a lot more assured. Thornley was good fun watching him trying to hit the perfect pass and not quite getting it. But yeah, it was all right first half. Second half, we were really good for about 15 minutes. We looked really, really fast and sort of quick triangles and interchanging. And they brought most of the new lads on. And then Stuart went off with a. I think he just felt his calf or something and just said, "I'll come off just in case." I don't think he's bad. So we played for 10 men for the last half an hour, and again that sort of limited a bit what we.
It's weird that in a friendly, isn't it? You think they'd just like say, "Go on, stick someone back on." Wouldn't you?
Well, I think literally he'd sent them to the dressing room to warm down.
Right.
And then he was worried that if he'd send them out again, there'd be, one of them might pick up a tweak. Because when I looked across, I think they'd all been into the dressing room, warmed down, and then they'd all come out sort of tracksuit and stuff, rather than like the sort of pre-match kit. So I think he probably and again, I think he also thought maybe it was a bit of a test with 10 men, a bit more of a.
Do that with the Polton under nines. Do a 2v3 in the training game. Make them work.
Yeah.
If you could attest to that little test there, Tim.
Yeah, I've been there, bought a T-shirt with that, John.
Yeah. Mitch, tell us about Matt even. Tell us about Shane Lavery's goal. Is it Lavery or Lavery? How do you pronounce his surname?
I don't know. Yeah, I can't remember a lot about it. I can remember when he didn't score more than the one he did score. There was he had a really nice glancing header at the near post, which was a lovely little. It was very cute little finish that I like the look of. I can't actually remember much about the goal he did. Oh yes, I can. I can remember Bowler cut inside and put it across to him, but I can't remember if he edited it or tapped it in or whatever.
Is Bowler the one with the curtain? Is Bowler the one with the curtain hairstyle?
Yeah. He looks like he might be a bit.
More importantly, how are the curtains?
Well, I tell you what is quite important is Garbs has had a haircut. The Alice band's gone. He's looking all sensible and yeah.
Has he had a Mitch? Has he had a bzzz?
No, not that far. Not that.
Has he gone full Mitch?
No, he's not gone. It's not gone for who's that Italian rep, Kalina.
Yeah, you've put in your notes, haven't you, that he was the standout player?
Bowler.
No,
Garbett. Yeah, Garbett was Garbett. Again, it's weird, isn't it? Because we've not seen these players in the flesh that much. So I've sort of watched Garbett so much on iFollow, and then I think at Wembley, you kind of so far back from the action. And it was really notable how good his delivery was in that little intimate ground. There was something, it was more obvious how good his delivery was into the box. And there were 4 or 5 times when we worked it out to him and he just put beautiful crosses in. I thought he looked the most assured player. I agree totally with what Dan says on the screen. I was going to say before, I think Bowler might be a bit of a Marmite player because he's really exciting. He goes past people, but then he goes past them again. He's one of them. He's a bit of Tom Ince or Martin Bullock or that. He just kind of cross it, and he'll go around his man again. And he's always looking to get it on his left because he's of course he's inverting him. So he'll make the space, beat 2 players for fun, and then have to stop to put the ball across, and then they'll get back. And yeah. I mean, he was exciting, but I haven't worked out whether I liked him or not yet. If that makes sense.
It's quite interesting you comment about Garbett to see how good he is actually in the flesh. Because you're right, you can't appreciate these things on iFollow, can you? And I've always said this about Paul Scholes. The first time I ever saw him in the flesh, I was like, my God, how good is he? You just can't. You can't get. You don't get that appreciation on TV. And I think with Garbett, right, we've seen the 2 playoff games, but they're kind of extraordinary games, aren't they? Where it's a ridiculous fast pace, and at Wembley, you're half pissed, aren't you? So you're not really looking at the intricacies of the game particularly, and you're far away. So I think we've got that to look forward to next season, haven't we, Tim, where we can get more of an insight into actual players in real life.
Yeah, I think we've spoken about this before. Haven't we? It's a bit weird because a lot of last year's players we actually got to know quite intimately because we watched every single game where normally you'd probably miss 5 or 10, 15 games of the season. We saw pretty much every touch, but you are following a single camera angle. And so the stuff that's going on off the ball sometimes isn't as immediately apparent. And like you say, when you see a quality cross coming from 5 yards away in the flesh, it's significantly different than seeing it from that camera angle, wherever it is halfway down the pitch. So it's going to be incredibly exciting to get back into the ground and watch these players live and give them the encouragement that we weren't able to do for most of last season. So it's bring it on, is what I say. Bring it on.
Yeah. So, listeners, viewers, if you're feeling a bit down from yesterday, like I'm sure we all are, just think we've got this to come now, haven't we? Try and put all yesterday's action at Wembley to the back of your mind and think about the fact that we're going to be back at Bloomfield Road next season. We're going to be back at the away games. Some good news from Boris today. We're going to be seeing all these fabulous players in the flesh, and we're hopefully going to be getting a full season. You look perturbed, Tim.
No, I'm saying it's 3 weeks on Saturday, the start of the season, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not far away.
Because it's the first week in August, isn't it? About the 6th or the 7th, the start of the first game. 7th. So I was just trying to tot it up in my head because it's 3 weeks off. That's nothing, is it?
Yeah. Well, the Euros has taken the edge out of the close season, hasn't it? It always does when there's a big tournament. Right, 47 minutes. We've done well here, haven't we? We've got some more stuff to go on, Mitch. I was going to
say, John, with what you just said, it was just lovely being in the crowd, seeing the new players as well, because you pick up everything around you, hear what people are saying around you, and you kind of, people, who's that, who's he? And that was really nice, because I've watched so much football on my own, and so you're doing it online or you're doing it on WhatsApp, and it's just really nice hearing the one lad, what's he called? Carey. Is it not Carey? Casey. One lad says, he looks just like Craig Cathcart. And then as soon as he said that, I was like, yeah, he does. And it's just that was really nice being in that crowd compared to last year where it's just such a...
You're in your lounge, you're in your front room.
Yeah. How does the kit look in the flesh?
I can't make my mind up.
It's a bit of a Marmite one, isn't it? But
my mind's made up. Do not like it. Christian Wolsterholm says, with the LED advertising boards, well, Chris, you've stolen my thunder, because that is the first piece on our Nick's News, Blackpool FC News roundup. So let's move on to that, and we'll call it a day after that. Nick's not here news. Yeah, Nick's on his sick bed. Get well soon, Nick, if you're listening or watching. As Christian said there with LE advertising boards, that was the first piece that I've written down on our news section. Let's get the news banner up there. Blackpool news. Tim, new LED lighting across 3 sides of the ground installed by the internationally recognised agency Sport 5 on a, get this, 5-year deal. 5-year deal. So things it's going to look great that when it's installed. Yeah. Just before you come in, it's a bit again. This is a bit Marmite for me. These boards, I find it quite irritating watching them on TV. I don't mind if they're just there's too much animations on them. There's too many moving things and it distracts your eye, and the balls sometimes get lost. I'm fine with it if it's just kind of stills. All right, have an animation. Just have a quick one where it just changes like that, or a quick transition.
Yeah, some of them go all the way down the length of the pitch, don't they? These animations.
Yes, it's too much. So I'm hoping they're not what's the word? What's the word, Mitch? You're a wordsmith. Obtrusive.
Intrusive. Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, like you say, it's distracting, isn't it? I mean, I think what it will do, it'll be like it will make us look. How can I put it? It's another level. It shows you're up another level, doesn't it? Because they're not normally financially viable in League One, are they? This I think I've seen that.
Bournemouth had the giant digital sausage dog legging it down their touchline. See, that's an example of it going too far.
Yeah, and that's I'm thinking back. I think I've seen that one. I'm not sure whether these are new advertisers coming in, and there's a little bit of self-interest here because my firm's got a board in the main stand at the moment. You
know what we're going to see now, Mitch? We're going to see a massive Tim Fielding animation. like Better Call Saul.
I know. Well, I'll have to get in contact with Martin Booker and see if I can get down there with me with tangerine chinos on, and
you could have Timisms flying up and down
around the ground.
Yeah, swirling round, flying in, zoom fade to another.
Maybe the podcast needs to put in a bid. The podcast get.
Yeah, Martin, if you're listening, just get in contact. You do us a deal, and we'll chuck a few quid your way. How about that? After all the hard work we've been doing on air, we'll do you a favour, give us a good price. Speak to my man, Mr. Fielding over there. We'll thrash out a deal. But Mitch, your thoughts on these LED boards? I know you're not a big fan of these some of these modern innovations in football, are you?
No. I mean, it's the same as anything. It's like when you buy Sky and then you have to watch adverts. I've paid like 30 quid to get, 25 quid to get in a football ground, and then there's adverts flowing out. But yeah, my main thought is, I feel like the Terry's carpet sign probably needs to have some kind of preservation order on it, because it's just, I don't know how long it's been there, but it feels like there's always been an advert for Terry's carpets.
Oh, and if Dan's put it there, hasn't he? Terry's carpet's rolling out before us. Exactly. See what you've done there, Dan. Very good.
If we are in an inexorable, if our growth is exponential and we're heading for the Champions League, then this part of me, feels like we should take Terry and his carpets with us. So that's my main concern, to be honest.
Yeah, you've got to remember where you've come from, haven't you?
You do, don't you? You do. I took an Everton fan. Sorry, go on. I took an Everton fan. Go on. Yeah, we'll just keep doing this for the rest of the pod. It'll be good. Just go on. I took an Everton fan with us to the I think what game was it? Anyway, we lost 3-0. It was awful. And he just spent the whole time going, I wonder who Terry is. Does he do good carpets? Should we go to Terry's after the game and buy a carpet? I don't know why he does this peculiar fascination.
I've got a Terry's carpet in my bedroom, actually.
Well, there you go.
A very nice one it is, a nice velvety smooth one. And I'm going to be recarpeting my house quite soon.
It's almost as if
looking a bit worn. I'll be going to Terry's again.
If you're looking for sponsorship opportunities, isn't it? The number of times we've said Terry's carpets, isn't it?
Actually, we've just taken a Terry's carpet up. Actually, we just had ours replaced on Sunday, so I didn't go back to him though.
Why not?
Because I got a deal.
Have you gone to Dave's carpets instead?
Barry's carpets.
Yeah, so anyway, where were we? Sizer, any news on a replacement for I follow? Tim, there's rumours that they're going to be taking it in-house. I think that'll be a step up, won't it?
I think so. I think anything would be an improvement on the I follow offering, wouldn't it? I think hopefully there's more than one camera angle. I think we've seen with a couple of clubs that did it last year. I think don't think Sunderland took it away from I follow, but they introduced additional cameras, didn't they? But those listen, I was banging the drum all last season. If I don't know how I follow is going to tie in with fans being back in the ground, i.e. whether you'll have the option of watching it rather than going to the game. Because in all seriousness, when with the lockdown restrictions easing, there is going to be a lot of COVID out there. There already is, isn't there? And there'll be certain people who don't want to expose themselves to the risks. So I don't know. I'm hoping we're going to get more than one camera angle. I'm hoping there's going to be a pre-match offering and a half-time offering, a little bit like watching the game on TV. There's no reason why you can't have a couple of pundits in there, and put your own bespoke commentary on and get away from just following BBC Radio Lancs, which is, it's not fit for purpose, is it?
It's a tired format. What they should do is they should just chuck us all in a room, fill the fridges full of booze, and go, away you go, lads, away you go.
Listen, there's different. The Bristol Rovers did that, didn't they? Where they effectively they outsourced it to their own fans to deal with it, and from what I understand, they did it very professionally and very engagingly. And I think there's an opportunity, whether it's an opportunity to do a pre-match show that links in with, for fans to do a pre-match show that links in with the program that goes out at 2 o'clock or 2:30 as part of the format, but they need to think out the box, because the advertising opportunities off this, there's no reason. I mean, and I know when Sam was at Fleetwood, he used to do like a live Facebook, like Sky Sports News, live from the ground during the game, and stuff like that. There's all sorts of stuff you can do like that, where Fleetwood, they didn't have the necessarily the numbers to engage with. Blackpool, you've got this huge, relatively speaking, huge audience out there that'll lap stuff like that up. And I just think, we've just got to go at every single angle that we can, and it's good. This is one of them. This is one of them is to create a bespoke product that is Blackpool, Tangerine TV, not iFollow. And I
think they're on the right track anyway, aren't they?
Yeah, no, it sounds exciting.
Yeah. Okay, next bit of news I've noted down. We've got a massive friendly against Rangers on Wednesday, the 21st of July, with a 7 p.m. kickoff. Unlike Nick, I haven't got details of the exact price of tickets or where to buy them, etc. Mitch, our accredited sports journalist, will not be liking this, will he? Being from the other half of Glasgow, as he is.
They're playing the Nobbers, aren't they? The Celtic, aren't they? Pre-season.
United are as well, actually.
Yeah.
Well, that was announced there. Stop talking about them, Tim, anyway.
No, sure might find his way down to Deepdale instead. But
Rangers, though, it's going to be chaos, isn't it? But it's going to be a great day nonetheless.
It should be a good 5-figure crowd for that one, shouldn't it?
Yeah.
And it'd be a good opportunity and with an opposition who are going to come and have plenty to say, I'm sure, as well. That it should be a great curtain raiser for the season. Really, I'm seriously looking forward to this. We've got Gerard bringing his team, and hopefully a great stage for us to watch these new players and see what they can all do. You always tend to find that Scottish teams are always like a week or two ahead of us in pre-season as well, aren't they? Mainly because they're international side are always home before everybody else. But secondly, the season starts a little bit early, doesn't it? Doesn't theirs start in the end of July? So the generally, when Scottish teams play English teams in friendlies, they tend to be like that week or two ahead, don't they? Yeah.
It looks like it's their last one as well, doesn't it? I think they start on the 28th.
Yeah, which might be why it's being played on a Tuesday or Wednesday night.
Yeah. So there should be. You'd like to think they'll be bringing a full strength side down, and also I have noticed they've just signed John Lundstrom from Sheffield United, Blackpool's former midfield maestro. Who remembers him?
He wasn't a midfielder that much clever when he was with us, was he? But he went on to be fair to him, he's done really well, hasn't he, since he's left us?
It was terrible for us, but yeah,
really well.
So after that, we've got Burnley, 27th of July, again at home, 7:45 kickoff. It'll be a good test, won't it? Premier League opposition and our former rivals.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. I think I'm more likely to go to that one than the Rangers one, to be honest, because I don't know, when I started going in the early to mid 90s, Burnley was such a big deal. It was always the game behind Preston, wasn't it? And it was always such a big deal. And it feels like we haven't played him for ages. And it feels like we should be playing Burnley, but we haven't actually played them that much over the last, probably since we're in the Premier League, isn't it?
We played them the first year down in the Championship, didn't we? After relegation, and they then went up that year or the year after.
Coyle year.
We went there and drew 2-2, didn't we?
We played them on the protest game. That was against Burnley, wasn't it? When they were chucking It's slightly after that.
The tennis ball
was
protest.
That the tennis ball protest? That was the last time we played them. I remember that because their fans were chanting, "We'll never play you again, never play you." So which song was it? Well, they were chanting, "We'll never play you again." Anyway, they're almost right, but we are playing you again. We're playing you on Tuesday, the 27th of July, with a 7:45 p.m. kickoff.
I presume these are all going to be full houses allowed as well, aren't they?
Burnley will bring a few.
I don't mean we'll necessarily get full houses, but we're allowed a full house.
Yeah, I think Rangers could get quite close, to be honest, because I think they'll have 5,000 at least away.
I'd say more, Tim. I reckon they'll bring more.
Yeah. They'll definitely give. I think they'll undoubtedly give them the East. Whether they'll give them another South or something as well, I don't know.
I think we'll get half the ground, personally.
Right. They reckon however mmany tickets we give them, they'll sell them all. So
you may as well. Create a good atmosphere.
Yeah.
This one's kind of slipped the radar for me. Tommy Johnson has left his position of head of recruitment. Don't know if anyone else noticed this. I just flicked on the news on the official site. Got a funny statement attaching it. Johnson joined the Seasiders in a very defined role in October 2019, which formed part of a setup that helped identify, monitor and sign players for the first team. However, in line with John Stevenson's appointment of head of operations and restructuring that has followed, the 50-year-old will depart Bloomfield this summer to pursue other opportunities.
I think
was that something in the sort of interim board, Tim, when he joined?
I wasn't. I can't remember now whether he came in October 19. Is it's. I've a feeling it's roughly the time that Ben Hatton left. So because Michael Bolingbroke had left quite early. Simon takes over in the June. Michael left in around August time, if I remember rightly, and I think Ben left in the September. And then we had Linton Brown came in and sort of held the fort, didn't he, until Ben Mansford, because he had to serve some notice with his club in Israel. So he's come in as part of the reshuffle, the post purchase reshuffle that happens. So I never realised that he, obviously by then I'd effectively resigned and wasn't involved, so I had no dealings with it. But it's I don't know what to read into that. I don't know whether somebody's nose has been put out of joint.
Sounds like it to me. Where
there's clearly an overlap, isn't there, between what John Stevenson's doing and what Tommy Johnson's doing? And if I was hazard a guess, I'd say that there might have been a clash somewhere on the line, and it's been felt it's best if he goes. But perhaps I'm being too. I'm reading too much into it, but it's in the very defined role, which suggests that some things they've crossed at some point, haven't they, about who's doing what? And
it stuck out to me, that alternative phrase there. Mitch, do you think that's going to affect anything? So during that period, we've signed some good players and a few stinkers as well, haven't we?
We have, and I wouldn't pretend to know exactly who's responsible for what signing. But I think one thing I didn't realise was that to what extent, and I think I'm right here, to what extent Johnson was actually more of a part-time appointment, because I read something that he also has several other roles. He works for I think he works as a striker coach for a national side. I'm not sure if it's Scotland or not, but like an age group coach for a national side, a striking coach, and I think he's also something to do with, it could be a women's team somewhere as well. So he's never been our full-time player procurement office figure, as far as I know. And I think Stevenson is very much full-time, is he not? And again, I wonder if it's just that thing where, well, do we need this fella working 15 hours a week? Now we've got somebody doing it full-time. I don't know. I mean, I think it's one of those things that you can only speculate on, can't you? I mean, who picks what player? Do all the players go through this team? Do Critchley and Garrity have any say? If they say, I don't know. I think I also look at the number of staff we've got, and again, it might be just me being old-fashioned, but I do think we've got quite a lot of people doing quite a lot of jobs.
It's gone the full circle, hasn't it? Because you look at the staff list now compared to what it was like.
Yeah,
it was like about 12 people on the staff directory.
Yeah, it was when we first went in. It was incredible that what a skeleton operation. Everybody had about 4 different jobs to do, and no time to do. As a result, no time to do the job properly. So it was. It's. I've got to smile because obviously we've talked about sort of turning around the oil tanker, and one thing that Simon's done is turn us into, well, not one thing. I don't mean it that way, but it's really turned us into a professional setup, and we seem to have the right people in the right positions, and there will be, you will step on a few people's toes on the way, and people leave, and there's a lot of people left, but there's a lot of good people come in as well.
Kev Gorton has just put in the comments, I'm going to read this out. Volunteers are doing work at the stadium this week. If anyone can spare a few hours, 9:30 a.m. at the North East Gate. I presume that's to clean the bird shit off the seats, is it again? Or?
Yeah, I think they are trying to look at, when we were dealing with, obviously we brought the Harry the Hawk in, but the long-term solution is to net it all. But it's incredible. You would think netting under the roof of the stands wouldn't be, it's a big job, but not a massive job. But literally, the cost was like I can't remember the exact figure now. It was in the hundreds of thousands of pounds. It's proper money.
Well, I know. Couldn't they use some of Terry's carpet?
I know, but listen. While Kev makes a good point. I mean, the work that volunteer group do is fantastic. I mean, it's sort of something that was obviously started just for the home game, but I think there's a group of fans there who really, I think they really enjoy getting down there and feeling like they're making a little bit of difference. And I think good on them, and it shows that connection that on all sorts of levels that exists now. I'm sure it's very much appreciated, because they can just do those little dirty jobs that otherwise they'd have to bring a contractor in from somewhere, and they'll get a bit out of it as well. So it's quality, but it's interesting actually.
Sorry, Tom. Dan BFC's just said, "Is there an evening shift, Kev?" So, Kev, if you're in the comments, if you want to just drop your answer in there. Sorry,
I think the other thing I was about to say, just linking to Dan's comments, was it'd be good sometimes if there was. Sometimes you can have too many people there, but where there's an opportunity to do something at a weekend, where I think that those of us who still have to work, obviously, because it's a lot of the retired guys are able to do this. But it would be nice sometimes just to go down and do a bit of something, whether it was a seat cleaning Sunday morning. I'm sure they'd have plenty of people who go down just to, for a couple of hours, and with enough people there, you can polish it off a lot quicker than if there's only 10 of them.
Yeah, Kev's replied there, mainly sweeping following work to the roof deals. Again, another thing that Simon Saddler's done, the cherry pickers have been in recently, haven't they, to get rid of that rust. So he's addressing yet another.
Well, I think he commented it in his statement, didn't he? It was one of his pet hates, and it was one of my pet hates as well. And that, I tried to make sure that we got the quotes in to deal with that as soon as we could. And actually, one of the companies that those big louvres, they're called, the big tangerine things that were rusting outside the ground. It was good to see those get done, because the quote was obtained back in, I think it was March 19, like a month after we got in, but it was about balance of the books at that stage, and it's great to see that done. Again, it's all about just washing away that rust. Yeah. That rust used to dripping down the side of the stadium just used to really wind me up, because it's just sign of neglect. Somebody doesn't care.
Just a couple more pieces before we go, Mitch. Ethan Robson's moved to MK Dons on a season-long loan. Again, another one that passed me by until I was scouring the Blackpool news section of the website today. So not unexpected, I think, that Ethan's moved on.
Yeah, I feel a bit sorry for him in the sense that he's not a bad player, but he's not better. He doesn't have one standout skill, and I don't think he's better than anybody we've got at anything. But he's not a bad player. I think he needs a year of football, and to go and make a career somewhere, and to get that, and so he'll be remembered relatively warmly, but. It is what it is, isn't it? It's just a shame, because he looked really good when he started, and he never really kicked on, did he? So,
no.
RMK Don's going to be the new tram-mate, because they've got Kai as well, haven't they? And
have they got Sully?
I thought he'd not gone to MK. Or was the talk of him going to MK?
Well, I've missed this, and we know I'm virtually a stalker of him. So,
you're not a very good stalker, are you? You need to up your stalking game.
Somebody on the chat, just let me know. Am I dreaming that Kai had gone to Milton Keynes? I thought that's where he's gone. Maybe I'm wrong.
Kudos, got Kudlis. It's just said thoughts on the whole of the East Stand going to away fans. I think, Scott, that's probably needs to happen, doesn't it? Given the volume of support from some of the clubs. I'm all for it. I like to see the ground full rather than 3/4 full. What do you two think?
Well, I personally, I mean, I think part of the issue that the lads in the North Stand had, the ruckers and everything, was that if the away fans were down the other end, they always wanted the away fans at the north end, because effectively to create that banter that you feed off. And I think we're going into a division now where clubs will bring quite regularly 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, and the reality is, I think probably 12 is enough for us. There might be some games where we can release some of that East Stand back to Blackpool fans, but I think it's probably the right balance to be struck. And at the end of the day, Simon's putting a lot of money in, and if you can get 25, 30 quid a time from 5,000 away fans every other week, then you'd be a bit silly not to take it, really, I think. And create. I think if we reach the point where we need it, where we need that, if we need those seats, I'm pretty sure that they'll be back with Blackpool fans. So if we have a really good season and we need them back, it wouldn't surprise me if we get them.
And I think the key, what you said, John, is it creates a better atmosphere. And it's all very well saying, we shouldn't give the advantage. We should keep the advantage of home fans. But actually, week after week after week of home fans dominant isn't actually as good an atmosphere as one with an edge, is it?
Absolutely not. That blog you did with the about the West Brom at home game when Bob Taylor was playing.
Yeah,
that was they had a lot of fans there, didn't they? That game, it's like half the ground, but it was a great atmosphere. It sticks in my memory, that game.
Yeah,
it was a really good atmosphere. So yeah, I'm all for it anyway. Kevin Stewart signed a 2-year deal, Tim, on a 2-year plus an option. Great to have him signed up again. Classy midfielder.
I think what's been good about this pre-season isn't necessarily the players we brought in, but the players that we've kept. The fact that the likes of Garbutt, who came here, I think probably originally thinking I'll play a season and look around for a better move, and I think he's realised that Blackpool can be where he can realise his ambitions. And Kevin Stewart is a good player. He's been in the Championship before. He's got a pedigree there, and if we're going to perform in this division, we need players who are used to playing at that level and can bring something into the dressing room for those that haven't, and try and make sure that we give it the best possible chance that we've got. I actually think we're going to surprise a few teams this year, and I'm expecting success for us. I think is if we can get ourselves in that middle band of teams and not be fighting relegation all season, that'll be very, very successful for the first year of the Championship for me.
Yep. And finally, look who's back. This man was spotted first.
He's aged a bit, hasn't he?
You'd think the stress of leaving Blackpool, the chairmanship of Blackpool FC, would have done him a bit good, reverse the aging process. But it's gone the other way. Yeah, a Carl lookalike spotted in the Royal Box. I think this was from the Germany game. Hissed myself when I saw that. I was going to say he's put on a bit of timber, but you can kind of the exponential growth of Carl.
He's a bit smarter than Carl, though, isn't he? He's
not got his slashes.
He's got a press suit on. He looks like he's freshly laundered. And I don't
know. It looks a bit ill-fitting to me, Tim. Looks a bit ill-fitting. So I think he's got the attire off to a T there. So maybe it is him. And here he is again, spotted last night. Where with Jeff, what's he called? That's the UEFA president, isn't it? Walking out onto the pitch to present the trophy, and there he is in his suit.
He does look a bit rotund there, doesn't he?
Rotund. Hang on.
Looks a bit.
Oh, we had to get one in, didn't we?
It looks a bit like the love child of Carl and John Prescott there, doesn't it? It's a frightening thought.
Oh, there you have it, folks. The love child of John Prescott and Carl Oyston to end what has been We've pulled it away. We've pulled it from the brink, chaps. The star of the show, the main guest, has having trouble, but we've pulled it round, haven't we? We're on an hour 15, so I think it's time to call it.
Hopefully, we can get John back on all the time, can't we? Because I was quite looking forward to hearing what he's got to say about where things are up to. So get that text sorted and get him back on. Yeah,
so we've got 10. I've written down 10 questions, so I'm not going to let them go to waste. Right, so we'll probably coming back another week or so, two's time, with reviews of more of the pre-season fixtures and the news. Right, Mitch, Matt, it's been a pleasure having you on as ever.
Yeah, pleasure to be here as always. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim, from the new crypt.
The new crypt. I gave you a little bit of a picture of it, didn't I, on Friday night? So.
Right, if you are watching on YouTube, please like, please subscribe, helps us grow and all that jazz. Thanks for watching, thanks for downloading, and up the pool.
Up the pool.
Up the pool. Yep, as ever, listeners, please do hit like and subscribe to our channel. Hit the notification bell if you are watching on YouTube. Helps us grow and get exposure. We're on around 930 subs, so we want to get to that 1,000, a magical 1,000 figure before the season. So please do that, and just tell your friends about this show and get them listening, get them subscribing. It would be greatly appreciated. Right, we'll see you on the next show and up the pool.